Chosen ones, protect yourself from pride. One of the devil's favorite weapons, and it can also just be a personal weapon against yourself without you knowing it, is that of pride. So don't sabotage yourself, don't sabotage your gains with falling into pride. And many people think that they have kind of mastered pride, but pride has levels to it. And really, it can be an ongoing fight if one lets these things slip through the cracks. Sometimes pride can come out of nowhere into different ways of attacking us. So we don't want to fall into pride. We don't want to take the bait. So the number one thing that I want to communicate to you here today is to pray to the Lord not to fall into pride. And really, in today's times, we live in a heavy pride-centered, self-centered, narcissistic culture. Many of us do. And so don't let that affect you. Stay humble. If you are on the path of true mastery in any area, you want to guard yourself against pride. If you want to enrich your relationships, your ability to communicate, your ability to relate to others, then guard yourself from pride. There is a process that happens that can draw us into pride. The first thing that happens is the temptation itself. The temptation itself can either be by our own presumptions, it can be from a spirit, an evil spirit can tempt us into pride. And also, we can just fall into pride just through ignorance. So don't be tempted, first off, and recognize the temptation when it happens. Usually when pride comes, it will come when you're under pressure. When everything's going good and dandy and you feel at peace with your life, then usually that's a good point not to go into pride. That's a good disposition that keeps you clear-headed because you're calm, you're analyzing things without too much anxiety or urgency. And so from there, it's easier, what I've found, not to fall into pride. And so when pride comes, it's usually when you're under pressure for something. And it's like you've had it up to here with this person. Or you win something. Something happens to you where you get a big gain and you're excited about it, and then you fall into pride that way. Maybe you want to go show it off. Maybe you overspeak about yourself. And so don't take the temptation, because this can set you back. God knocks people down who are into pride. So we don't want to have to undergo that punishment from the Lord. And one of the best things you can do if you do fall into pride is to repent of that pride. And if you do this, there's a chance that the Lord will take away the punishment. So I want to read to you this little passage from Sirach that talks about pride. This is Sirach 3:17-24. My child, perform your tasks with humility. Then you will be loved by those whom God accepts. The greater you are, the more you must humble yourself, so you will find favor in the sight of the Lord. For great is the might of the Lord, but by the humble he is glorified. Neither seek what is too difficult for you, nor investigate what is beyond your power. Reflect upon what you have been commanded, for what is hidden is not your concern. Do not meddle in the matters that are beyond you, for more than you can understand has been shown to you. For their conceit has led many astray, and wrong opinion has impaired their judgment. So this is a very awesome passage in my personal opinion, not because I'm sharing it, but just because it is. This is really about living. In the first part, he says, perform your tasks with humility. So if you're doing something, you're working performing your tasks, sometimes we may, get a little excited, about ourselves. And I think it's okay to have a healthy sense of pride, but when we start getting too comparative, when we start presuming too much about us, that's when we can get into trouble. So what happens though with this is we have the temptation that's usually under pressure, and this will lead us to the second stage, which is we start acting out of ego, out of presumption, or self-aggrandizement, right? Or all of these. When you presume something about yourself, when you presume something about others, right? You assume things about other people that maybe aren't true either. That can be a form of pride because we're going through judgment. We're kind of plastering our own intuition or our own thoughts over that, and they may or may not be true, right? They could be true, but sometimes people get way too confident with only having a little bit of information to go off of. That can be a form of pride too. Presumption itself can blind you, and pride is really this mask that goes over people that makes them think that they know it all. Have you ever had a friend that no matter what you did, they always have like one-upmanship about you? Or a friend maybe who is always trying to tell you like something better. And there's nothing wrong with sharing stories. There's nothing wrong with that. But some people, it's like no matter what, they have to beat you in some way. It's competition. And I myself love healthy competition, but just make sure not to overinflate yourself. A lot of people out there, they want to be the best. They want to be the most beloved type of person. They want to get all the attention. And so that can be a form of pride. Those who are trying to gain all this admiration from others, that can be a form of pride. And in today's times, with all the social media, that's huge. You may find yourself starting your venture where you're being authentic, you're being genuine with people, with what you're sharing online, and then you start chasing those clicks. And so that can get you to compromise on your value, where the focus has shifted from being your genuine self, and now you're doing things and researching into topics that are kind of beyond what is meant for you. Sort of like it says in this verse here, it says, "Do not meddle in matters that are beyond you, for more than you can understand has been shown to you." That right there is so awesome. It makes me think of the depth of not myself, but what I study, Kung Fu, and it really does. It's like a tree that you plant, and every day you're learning. If you're in something that you really love, you will see that. You'll see the depth in just the simple things that make it a real focus, that make it a real vocation for you. And really, any interest, it could be art, it could be architecture, it could be cars, it could be weapons, it could be writing. I mean, every subject has a depth to it. And when we stay within our thing, and what I'll recommend, I've said this before, don't do more than 3. Pick 1 or 2, maybe 3. More than that, and you're probably being a dabbler. But pick 3 things, and if you do that, if you narrow down your focuses, you can really work and get good at that one thing. So, but coming back to this temptation, if you pray and you cover yourself with humility at the beginning of the day and guard yourself, pray to God to protect you from pride, from temptation. Those of us who maybe were champions at one time, maybe we know we have a high potential and we want more. Well, those are the people you gotta be humble, because we always need to learn. Sometimes I want to go break something that I know would be a challenge, and I break wood, and sometimes I break bricks, but I know that I need to wait a little more for my training. I need my training to be a little stronger before I attempt that bigger break. And that's okay. Be patient with yourself. Don't over assume. Test your work. Test your work. When you know that your work is true, when you test it, then you can have a humble, while at the same time being grateful for what you've done. And I think that's the key. In today's times, it's all about, oh, we're getting lots of attention, we must be great. But really, I've seen people who are very, very talented, and they had very, very good information, and they were good at what they did, and yet they had hardly any followers. And so it's not always about this social proof. You can have a genuine person who's very awesome in many ways, and yet hardly anyone notices. And so remember this, God hides his precious ones. He does. And another thing that he does is he puts gems, if you think of like a diamond, deep in the earth. And it takes a lot of work to get that gem, to find that gem. And so God may be hiding you right now, and that's okay. Be patient with it. Let it happen on its own time. Don't feel like you need to become someone you're not. Don't feel like you need to be prideful and start dressing in a certain way just to gain attention. Really, humility, it also says this in the scripture, humility comes before God raises you up, but pride goes before the fall. So don't fall into pride. Okay, y'all, that's a lecture on this today. I appreciate you tuning in. For more on this, I do believe I have a prayer on pride. If I can find that, I'll put that in the link below. I hope everyone's having a great, awesome day. One more thing on pride before I go. If you're humble, like in Kung Fu, for instance, then it has a way of being able to get in and read your opponent. But if you're too you just think you know it all, sometimes that can get you hurt. And so there is a balance of being full of yourself, but also being humble, where you become almost like a cobra, like a fluid type of energy, where you can come in and read your opponent and stay humble, right? You don't want to give away too much, but you're also giving yourself at the same time. So there is this balance between being humble and also being full, right? Being full of the presence, being full of your strength. And that is really the rope to walk. Many people, they get full of themselves, and then the devil comes and just pushes them over the edge. And that's when it can happen. When you're strong, when you feel really good, sometimes the devil can come in and use that against you. And he knows that if you go into pride, that'll separate you from God, at least for a time being. So he wants you in pride. Okay, y'all, that's it.